Hello and welcome. This is Tim Hallbom. I'm the training director at the NLP and Coaching Institute and have been working with NLP and with meta programs for many, many years now. And we're delighted to offer this webinar, which is about the MindSonar program and the MindSonar itself. And I would like to introduce Jaap Hollander, who's from the Institute for Eclectic Psychology. We're actually broadcasting from Holland at the moment, where it's about 7 p.m. And so luckily we're able to reach people basically all over Europe and America at the moment. And Jaap, would you say a couple of words about yourself and introduce yourself?
Yes, certainly. Well, thank you for introducing me, Tim. Yes, so I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm a director of an NLP training institute. Not only NLP, we also do a lot of provocative coaching. And one thing we've developed is MindSonar, which is what this webinar is about. And so we've been working on that for about 15 years. It's all based on NLP and science mostly. So I'm very happy to see that so many people are attending tonight.
Yeah, and I, for many years, have worked with Jaap, coming over to train here in the Netherlands, and watched this program evolve with the MindSonar. And I remember I talked to him a lot about it'd be so great if it were in English, and so not just because I asked, but because it made a lot of sense. He also had created it in English as well as in Dutch, and so it's been a very lengthy and I think in-depth project that he's done. So the way we're going to conduct this webinar is I'll be asking Jaap questions, kind of like in an interview format. The reason we're doing that is so we don't talk over each other as much, because it's a little bit challenging sometimes on a webinar. So I'll ask questions and Jaap will answer. Sometimes I'll chime in and add some of my own thoughts to what's being said. So Jaap, beginning this, what is MindSonar?
Yes, well, MindSonar, you can see if you look at your screen the result of the outputs, or little part of the output of MindSonar. But MindSonar basically is a tool which is online to measure thinking style. So MindSonar is a tool to measure how people think, and it does that by defining meta programs and Graves value categories. That is the same categories that are measured in spiral dynamics. So you get a very clear and concise image of what somebody finds important and what their meta programs are. So how they are thinking about what they find important. And that is something that you can use in all kinds of different situations.
So some of the people listening may not be familiar with meta programs, Jaap. Could you define that for the audience?
Yes, so there's a whole bunch of meta programs. MindSonar is measuring 13 different ones of them. Well, one meta program that most people will probably be familiar with is towards versus away from. Am I thinking more in terms of what I don't want, or am I thinking more in terms of what I do want, what I want to achieve, or do I think more in terms of what I want to avoid, for instance? And then another one that's less familiar, for instance, is concept versus structure versus use, which is somebody who thinks in terms of concepts is thinking, what is the basic idea here? If you are thinking in concepts, that's the question you may have right now. What is the basic idea behind MindSonar? If you're more like a structural thinker, or in a certain context you think more structurally, you will think, well, how does this relate, for instance, to the rest of NLP, or how does it relate to coaching? So you thinking about different elements and then the relation between them. Or you could be thinking in terms of use. What can I do with it? So tomorrow I have a new project. How could I use this?
And let me add to that, because I found this meta program particularly interesting. As Jaap was saying metaprograms measure thinking styles, and as a trainer who trains all over the world, I've found that people in different cultures often think in different ways. And so answer this for yourself. If you were to bring home a piece of furniture from a furniture store like IKEA or Office Max and you had to assemble it, what would you do first? Would you start putting it together, or would you really read all the instructions and get a deep sense of what it's all about, or would you take the pieces and lay them out, and like it suggests in the manuals, assembly manuals? And people will have a different style. The people thinking in concepts are thinking like, where did this come from? How will I use it? Where's the best place to have it? And all of those kind of questions. Somebody who, and they'll need to think that through before they start assembling it. Somebody who's more interested in the structure will lay out all the pieces, make sure they're all there, and get a sense of how the assembly hangs together before they put it together. Somebody that's into use will actually just start doing it and then look at the instruction manual later. And so those are very different approaches to how to deal with something. And I found as a trainer, if I'm in the United States or the UK, Canada, often I'll do a demonstration, ask people to go out and do it, and they'll just go do it. So they're like use. They'll start putting it together for themselves. If I'm in Europe, often what people will want is to think about the concept first. So often it's better to give people a couple of minutes to really think through the concept and any theory behind something and how it might relate to other ideas. And if they have that time to think about that, then they can do it, and then more people are satisfied that way. When I'm in Asia, people want to know the structure, how this all hangs together, what are the steps, and what do they need to do. So if you give them an opportunity to read through the like handout first, then they're more comfortable just doing it after doing that. So this idea of concept, structure, and use can be really important if you're dealing with different kinds of people, because they'll have totally different approaches to things. But as Jaap said, there are 13 different metaprograms that this measures. Again, as he suggested, one is towards the goal or away from a problem. That would be a motivational factor, and there's other ones as well, and probably it's beyond the scope of this to go into those in detail.
Yes, but you can imagine if you're measuring 13 different aspects like this of somebody's thinking, that you can achieve a pretty detailed view of somebody's thinking style.
So tell me, what have past participants been most enthusiastic about? Yeah. In attending this or in using it after they've gone through the training?
Yeah, well, they've usually been most enthusiastic, of course, about what they could do with it. So that was more like a use thing, right? So here you have somebody or an organization with a question, and here you see the profile, and suddenly it's totally clear, what the problem is, or where the resources are, or how people interact, or what kind of person you're searching for. So that's sort of, fast and detailed understanding has often, gotten a very enthusiastic reception.
Well, so then who's using it and for what?
Yeah, so basically it's used for coaching, it's used for team building, and it's used for organizational development. And we've had a number of what we call famous projects or showcase projects. Actually, we are on the website right now. I'll open that page, or you can see, maybe go there for yourself. But one of the projects that was very interesting was it's being used by the Dutch Army in their leadership training. So they, when somebody becomes a high-ranking officer, they get a 1-year leadership training, and they use MindSonar to pinpoint what this person wants to develop as a military leader. So then there it's used by a consultant who works with army colonels to be, basically. Another very interesting project that I really liked was that two colleagues of mine, one psychologist and one NLP trainer, used it to coach the Dutch equestrian Olympic team. So these are Olympic athletes, and you know they're of course under very stressful circumstances. They have to operate as a team, and they used MindSonar to help them. And I'm very happy to say, in the Olympics of 2012, this particular team, I think they won. I don't know the exact number is somewhere on our website. But I think they won about 40% of all Dutch medals. They won 1 gold, 2 silver, a whole bunch of medals. So that was a very rewarding project. But it's also being used by BMW, for instance, to select salespeople. It's been used by the university to help interns adapt to the organization where they're going. It's also been used a lot of individual coaching, of course, in health coaching, in personal development. So there's lots of different uses. Basically, if you can understand how somebody thinks, there's virtually no limits to what you can do with that.
So you were telling me about an interesting thing that someone in Germany did with a person that had multiple sclerosis. Can you share with the group about that?
Yes, that was a number of years ago. Somebody was, experimenting with that. This was a lady who had multiple sclerosis, and he made 2 profiles, 2 MindSonar profiles. One for when she had a good day, so she could move reasonably well and she wasn't too tired, and one for when she had a bad day. And then he contrasted those, and it was, I don't remember the details, but I saw the profiles at the time, and there were radically different profiles for good days and bad days. And then he was teaching her to, on her bad days, think more like she was thinking on her good days, and which resulted in this particular case. Of course, we don't know if that's always be the case, but in this particular case, in an improvement of her health.
So, in saying that, one of the things I think is important for people to recognize is that MindSonar is not a personality test. It really is about measuring your thinking style in a specific situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be as highly specified as having a good day versus having a bad day and dealing with your own healing journey. So, could you share with the group how may be different than other personality tests or psychological tests?
Or profiling tools.
Yeah.
MindSonar is always focused on a certain situation, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't measure how you are thinking in general, but it measures how you're thinking in a specific context. So, for instance, take the Army colonels as an example, or the Olympic athletes. You're interested in how this person thinks in a leadership situation, or how this person thinks in an athletic context, and you're not interested, in their thinking style when they're playing golf, or when they're telling bedtime story to their children. So with MindSonar, you have a possibility to really focus on the situation you're interested in. That's important. So it is not a personality test. It's a test of a thinking style for a specific context.
As a result of that, you can get very specific in your understanding of how somebody's going to operate there.
Yes. So, for instance, if you're measuring, which students do well in the University of Amsterdam, that could be a slightly different, or maybe even a totally different profile than when you're measuring which students are doing well in the University of Brussels. Mm-hmm. So it's very specifically focused on a certain situation.
Yeah.
Go into reasonably briefly how you can convince financial people to endorse a MindSonar project within the organization, because in our cases as coaches and consultants and trainers, we're usually involved with HRM, human resource people who are often quite enthusiastic about our ideas and our projects, but then they still have to convince the financial people, the controllers, basically the people who are controlling the money. And so one thing we will do in the training is to make a projection of the ROI, the return on investment, which is often a great convincer for financial people.
Yeah, and we were discussing that earlier. You were saying that the financial people think that way already.
Yes.
So it's really kind of matching their way of thinking, and if you could demonstrate that the company will actually save a bunch of money or be more effective or make more sales.
Yeah. And if you start calculating that, you'll be surprised how much money you'll be saving or making for that company with your psychological projects.
Yeah. So for the cost of the project for the company is small compared to the benefits that they can accrue.
So based, of course, on what you assume, but we find that financial people are used to that anyway, making assumptions about the future.
Okay. So another, I think, benefit of the program, what it includes is there are free exclusive follow-up interpretation webinars that Jaap runs. So once a month you can get online, look at a number of different graphs around specific issues, so you can deepen your understanding and become a lot more effective with those.
Yeah, it's really a fun way to meet other people from other countries who are also working with MindSonar.
Yeah, and it creates kind of a cross-fertilization of ideas that are in a real sense non-competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a way to enrich yourself with being part of a community that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I see there's a question from Ria. Well, we see your question and we'll answer it a little later. We'll finish this and then we'll answer any questions that come up. So Ria, we'll get back to you.
Now, one thing about what the training includes is it includes basically 30 free profiles. Mm-hmm. And you can actually go out and administer those and charge for them and for your services around those, and could easily pay for the training and your travel to the training just by getting those profiles finished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a nice feature, isn't it?
It certainly is. So tell me, what you have an international registry?
Yes, there's a registry. I can show it because it's on this site. Where is it? Here's the registry. And when you finish your training, you have to first do a number of tasks. You have to turn in some case examples. You have to do some writing about it. And then, if you pass all this, you can be registered as a MindSonar professional. So people all over the world can actually confirm that you are registered.
And by going through I think, a fairly rigorous certification process, it gives you the confidence to go out and sell it because you know you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes, so somebody was asking, well, how does it work once you're certified? Well, it's always a good idea to check in the interpretation webinars, of course. So to keep yourself sharp as a MindSonar professional. And then basically you can use the whole system and you will be billed after you have used a certain number of profiles. So shall we go on and answer the questions? So we'll open up to questions now. This is one question for Ria. Says, can you please make mention of how this has been used for younger versus older age ranges, including children and youth and teens? Yes, let me think. Well, it has been used less for younger than for adult people. There have been some projects with younger people, students mostly. We did find statistically, because there's a whole bunch of the statistics behind MindSonar, we did find statistically that there's no difference statistically between different age groups in which meta programs they use. Some people have said that it's not so easy to understand for young children. So if you have young children, or if you have, for instance, mentally retarded people, you will basically have to sit next to them and do the test with them together, the administration with them together. So I know there's have been a number of people working with children and youngsters, but no specific examples come to mind right now. If you're interested, we also have a, let me see, we have some forums. So you could go to the forums and ask a question, who has been working with kids, and could you please give me some examples? From Vatal, how much time will it take? Yes, it takes about 45 minutes to fill out the profile.
And what people need to do is really put aside the 45 minutes and do it without interruption. The way the profile is designed when you're online is it guides you through it all step by step. So you get a it's pretty accurate that way, and it keeps you on track with how to answer the questions properly.
Yes. By the way, if you like to ask a question, type it into the chat box, because I see some people have questions, like Toby has a question mark in the list. Yes, specific, and Sanjeev has a question, but we don't see that question. So if you want to pose it, please type it in the chat box. So while we are, there's another question from Bob. Does a person have a different MindSonar pattern if they are sober compared to being drunk or smoking cannabis? I don't know. We have to try that out tonight, Bob, and see what happens. But yeah, I would suspect they would. But as far as I can tell, it hasn't been specifically tested so far.
Yeah, at least it hasn't been tested intentionally.
Are you running any more courses? Well, there's 2 courses in the United States. Let's see, MindSonar USA. There's one in San Francisco in June and September. Then there's another one in Salt Lake City in October. And we have one in Holland here, and we're preparing one in Japan. And one in Czechia right now. So if you happen to be Czech, Toby, that might be an interesting opportunity for you. Once these are finalized, they'll appear on the website too. Liza said, do you have any Excel spreadsheet examples of teams? Yes, I do. Let's see, well, so why don't you send me an email, or then I could maybe send it to you, because I don't know where to find it exactly right now and show it to everybody. Let's see if I can find my email address somewhere on this website. So I'll type in my email address in the chat box. Okay, this is my email address. So, Liza, if you send me your email address, I will send you an anonymized uh, spreadsheet with a team example. So, Max, do you have a book on MindSonar and Graves means in English? Well, there's a chapter on MindSonar in Innovations of NLP. So it's not a whole book. Oh yeah, and there is a book that's exactly follows the MindSonar setup, written by two Dutch NLP trainers.
But it is in English.
And it is available in English. Yeah, let me look that up. But it's available from the NLP of California Institute, and you can also find it here on our website. Let me see where that is. I think it's right here. We have a page here, but this page is especially for people who do the certification training. And here, this book is called Mastering Communication. So if you email me, I don't know if it's on Amazon yet, but again, you can email me and I'll put you in touch with the people where you can get this.
And it's an excellent book.
Is the MindSonar training program would be web-based, online, or is it only classroom in the USA?
Right now, what we have planned is to do the first 3-day chunk of it live, so that you are involved directly with other people and doing it interactively. The last 2 days that we have, we're going to be organizing those as webinars, and maybe some of the rest of it is webinars too. So in the future, I think that's going to be a distinct possibility.
Yes, but I think so far as we can tell, there'll always be a classroom component to it. It will never be completely web-based, but we're looking to make some parts web-based. But the next training in the USA is completely classroom, with a little bit of interpretation webinars, as we said. And Sanjeev says, how different is MindSonar from lab profiling? Yes, lab profiling by Roger Bailey. We know Roger very well. It basically measures the same kinds of things, although MindSonar measures a few metaprograms, or at least one, I think, that
is not included.
Lab profile doesn't, and vice versa also. And of course, very important, the lab profile is an interview scoring rather than an online tool. So it takes a bit more time to do the lab profile. It's not as standardized. And see, if you look here at the graph, you see also the Graves score. So basically, the lab profile only defines your values, your criteria in words, and MindSonar also measures what kind of values you have.
The other thing behind lab profile is having been intimately familiar with it, and it's actually written up in my most recent book, Coaching in the Workplace. There's a hefty section on the lab profile kind of metaprograms. One of the things that Roger always stressed, Roger Bailey, who developed the lab profile, was it was for understanding and not for change. And around the MindSonar, there have been a number of techniques developed to help people actually change their metaprograms. Lab Profiles is an excellent tool and a really great interview, and it can be helpful to learn that. And in fact, people who do the best with MindSonar have had some experience, at least read about the lab profile as well.
Yes, so there's another question. Do you have a MindSonar training scheduled or planned in India? No, we don't have an India distributor yet. So if you're know somebody who would be interested in distributing MindSonar in India, we would be very interested in that. And on our website, there's also a section on how to become a MindSonar distributor. Do you have any idea of what one can charge for MindSonar? Well, like I said, it's always a combination of MindSonar plus advice, coaching, personal development. So it depends on, you know, what price range you are in, but the range has been from anywhere from $70 to $250, depending on the market you are in.
That would be for like a one-on-one session.
A session, yes.
But often where it's being used too is it's being used in corporations and companies. You might have a team or an organization with anywhere from 7 to 50 people that you're doing this with, and then this can be wrapped into a much bigger project.
Yes, so the price is usually for more than just the tool. Ria asked, lab profiles, did you say? Yes, this is the language and behavior profile developed by Roger Bailey and also offered by Shelley Rose Charvet. She offers trainings in, you know, learning how to do an interview, a live interview, and then a scoring system to measure metaprograms. So this is what's called in psychology a structured interview assessment. So it's lab process. It's not lab like in laboratory, but it's lab like in language and behavior. So some great questions. So what time is it, Tim? Well, we have a little bit more time, so we're about to ready to wrap up. So if anybody has any questions, type them in now, and we will answer them.
And let me say this, if you have any more questions about the program, about training, if you go on the MindSonar website, which is www.mindsonar.info, you'll find all kinds of information there about the MindSonar itself. You can also contact Carla at the NLP and Coaching Institute, and the number there is just shown, 801-883-9446.
Yes, so it's probably easiest going to MindSonar America on the MindSonar website, and that has all the information.
Ria, you asked that question. The person that primarily developed the lab profile is a guy named Roger Bailey, who now I believe lives in Uruguay. We can just type it in. And often the lab profile is being taught as part of NLP programs, like Master Practitioner programs. It's also, if you look at the book Coaching in the Workplace by myself, Tim Hallbom, and Nick LaForce, you'll find that there's a large section of that book that's devoted to metaprograms and discusses the lab profile.
Yes, and maybe interesting for those of you who visit the website, parts of coaching in the workplace are also posted as posts here on the website under the title MindSonar America, and every week they are covering 1 or 2 metaprograms.
And I'm noticing Bob said, is there a metaprogram that indicates that a person may be more motivated or more able to change their own behavior? Yeah, there's about a third of the metaprogram questions are directly related to motivation. And people are going to be more or less motivated by a number of factors. One, are they moving towards what they want or away from a problem? Do they like to follow a procedure, or do they want to have a creative way to do something? Are they matching what they like or mismatching what they don't like? So there are a number of really important factors for that. You can get very clear and specific using MindSonar on what's going to motivate someone.
Yes, and there's also one specific meta program. It's this, if you look at the sample graph here, and again, this is just a graph. There's 30 pages of text in the report explaining this. But here you see the red, and this maintenance development change, and the higher somebody scores on change, the more motivated they generally are to achieve changes.
So
exactly specific meta program.
To answer Bob, yeah, there's a lot of stuff on that, and probably more than we'd have time to talk about.
Sanjeev, has the MindSonar profiling used across different cultures? Because I understand that are all contextual and it's cultural context too. Yes, but so far, Sanjeev, we haven't found that much cultural difference between the. Well, actually, we only measure that for Holland and Belgium, so those are pretty strongly related cultures, and we haven't done any statistics yet on, for instance, the difference between the United States and Europe. But we will certainly look into that as soon as we have larger numbers of profiles from different countries, different cultures especially. But like, for instance, in Holland, Dutch people always think that Belgians are quite different from them, and vice versa. But we don't find that in the profile. So I guess the meta programs are more basic in a sense than these cultural differences. But again, we'll have to see how that works out in totally different cultures. Yeah, Ria says her excitement grows. Well, thank you very much. Okay, so I think it's about time we wrap it up. And Greg, is there a means to take the MetaSonar, the MindSonar evaluation for ourselves and evaluate how it fits our business model?
Yes, and what you'd want to do is contact Carla at the NLP and Coaching Institute. And
Carla's with a K, right?
No, with a C.
Oh.
And you just call.
And she's also, you can also see her on the website here, or at least the telephone number. Yeah. You can look at MindSonar USA. Well, I'll copy that in the box so you can see that. So here's the phone number, and she can
assist you with that.
Yes, help you with that. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, you're welcome, Toby.
Well, thank you all for being on board with us this last hour. We certainly appreciate your tuning into this and hope you found it useful and interesting. And this is a really, I think, wonderful opportunity to be a pioneer in something that's so powerful and useful.
Yes. Getting in at the ground floor,
so to speak.
Yes, I don't understand. There's been a crazy mix-up because Tim is almost virtually giving it away in the United States. Aren't you? What are you charging for it?
$14.95.
$14.95. Well, I don't know why he does that, but he probably wants to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Right?
By the way, the training will be done. The first 3 days will be with Jaap, and the second 2 would be with me.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
So, thanks again. Bye-bye.